Everything is Fine by Great 78. Chapter 17. Medium. The six of them gathered on the small porch, stared at the greasy-haired potions professor. Luna and Rosie only looked at him with mild interest. The others gaped in open shock.
"Well," said Severus Snape, "I opened the door. That is the closest thing to an invitation that I am willing to offer. Are you coming in, or not?"
Without answering, the group moved together through the front door, in astonished silence. They stepped into the house and took in the quaint Laura Ashley cottage-style decor. The chintz sofa upholstery, wallpaper, and curtains were all a matching yellow shade, with tiny blue and pink flowers. Every table held crocheted doilies and vases of dried roses.
"I love what you've done with the place, Severus,"
Draco offered.
"Kindly fuck off, Mr. Malfoy,"
Snape bit out.
"Oh, can we say fuck here? Thank Merlin. I could never tell if Luciana was cursing me or offering me a utensil,"
Pansy/Ambrose said, lowering her aged body to a twee pink swivel club chair. I feel that we should introduce ourselves," Hermione said hurriedly. "I'm known as Harlow. This is Draco and Ron. That's the helper from the good place, Rosie, and this man is Ambrose Wimbley, although perhaps you knew him as Parkinson back in the day." Snape raised an eyebrow at her, and they locked eyes for a moment. Then Snape turned to Pansy, enunciating each syllable with relish.
"Parkinson."
"Yes, Professor,"
Pansy grumbled. The smile that spread across Snape's face was so foreign and frightening that it even caused Draco to shudder.
"Well, how positively fitting."
The dark-haired wizard nearly giggled.
"Salazar's bollocks. You always did have a sadistic streak,"
Pansy answered, massaging her aching knees.
"And who is this Harlow?"
Snape drew out Hermione's alias mockingly. He gestured to Luna, who was eyeballing him hungrily.
She goes by Luna Lovegood,"
Draco answered.
"She's, rather not the Luna we once knew, but that's what she calls herself."
"Stephen, did you say? Charmed." Luna approached, holding out one hand to Snape for him to take. Snape held it and kissed the back of it sensually. A sense of mild horror and distaste began to spread amongst the others.
"Sure, that works,"
Snape agreed.
"Luna, is it? May I show you my bedroom?"
He gestured to a door near the back of the cottage, and Luna purred, "I thought you'd never ask." She hurried into the next room in front of him, Snape beating a hasty path behind her.
"Professor, can't we—"
Draco called out, but froze when Snape rounded angrily on him.
"Mr. Malfoy, I have been here for an eternity, with only my hand, and the occasional soul-crushing company of the asshole in the other house, to keep my desires at bay. I have craved the touch of a woman for what feels like eons at this point. There is literally nothing you have to say that cannot wait 15 minutes.
With that, Snape turned on his heel and strode into the bedroom, slamming the door behind him. "Surely they're not—" Hermione began, but within a few seconds there was the unmistakable sound of moaning coming from the other room, followed shortly by a steady thumping noise.
"What a horrible day to still have hearing!"
Pansy groaned, rocking herself slowly in the club chair. From the bedroom, A girlish voice called out, "Oh, yes! Pookie, that feels so good!"
Ron made a gagging noise. "She used to call me that!" Even Draco's brain pixies felt a little bit sorry for the ginger git, though really it was more like second-hand embarrassment. The noises went on for what felt like an insufferably long length of time, though in reality it was fairly closer to the 15 minutes that Snape had promised. They tried to make stilted conversation over it. "So, do you think Snape chose this—" Draco picked up one frilly pink and green ruffled pillow. Decor. "If anything, I think it was chosen specifically to annoy him." Ron smirked. He snaked one arm around Rosie's waist and pulled her close to him.
Hermione cringed. I feel as though I'm intruding. Should we give them some privacy?"
"I feel as though I would like to gouge my brain out with a spoon to forget this whole experience so far, but here we are," Draco responded, grimacing. There was a knock at the door. Everyone froze, and even the grotesque sounds from the bedroom paused for a moment, before resuming with vigor. "Should we get it?" Ron whispered, theatrically. "Shan't," Draco answered, crossing his arms and sitting back to indicate that he would not. Hermione gave him a droll look.
"I'll get it."
"No!" Draco whispered, emphatically. "It could be them. Ariel and that Umbridge-looking woman. Stay here." He turned to Rosie. "Rosie, would you mind?"
Obediently, Rosie stood and walked to the door. Hermione, Ron, and Draco went to stand behind the door. Pansy struggled to her feet from the soft club chair, finally giving up and remaining seated.
"Hello,"
a warm, familiar voice said interestedly from the porch. Hermione and Ron stared at each other in amazed wonder, then hurried around the edge of the door. "Hurry!" they yelled simultaneously, throwing their arms around the man. They drew him inside, disbelieving looks on their faces. Potter was much older than the three of them, older than Draco had ever recalled seeing him before. He looked much the same, with the exception of his mostly grey hair and some additional lines near his green eyes.
"What are you doing here?"
asked the stunned Potter. Behind his glasses, his eyes were huge, as though trying to take it in and process everything. "I was just about to ask you that. Why are you here? Did another train come? Did you come from a different good place?" Hermione peered past him, into the outdoors, as though searching for the second train.
"No, I live just there, behind that train, in the other house," said Potter, clearly still bewildered.
"You live—" Ron said weakly, obviously remembering Snape's earlier words about the company he kept.
"Yeah, right across there. I've been there forever, well, for years. Decades, really. It feels like at least a century? I don't know exactly."
Potter looked off into the middle distance, in quiet contemplation. He came back to himself suddenly.
"Merlin, you are the first people I've seen besides Sev in forever."
Hermione made quick introductions of Rosie and Pansy/Ambrose, and gave him an abbreviated version of who was in the bedroom with Snape, making the lasciviously lewd noises.
"Huh. So she sounds hot?"
Potter said with a hungry look in his eye.
"Potter, you can't be serious,"
Draco said with a disdainful headshake. Potter gave him a hard stare.
"Sev and I have been alone here with only each other for forever, I think. I can't tell you how long I've craved the touch of a woman, Malfoy. Godric, Sev is so, clammy, just clammy and pointy, all over. You cannot imagine. No, stop!"
Weasley spoke for all of them. In the ringing silence that followed, he tried again, more softly. "Please, hurry.
Just stop, mate." Potter shook his head, muttering about desperate times, calling for desperate measures. The bedroom door opened, and Luna emerged with a self-satisfied grin, followed by Snape, who likewise smiled dazedly. Potter approached her swiftly. "Hi, I'm Harry. Would you—"
"Cheers!"
said Luna, grabbing Harry by the shirt front and pulling him into the bedroom. Snape looked after them longingly as the door closed, almost as though he was considering following the pair of them, but then he turned slowly back to face the others with his usual closed-off expression. "So—" The Professor straightened his cuffs on his shirt carefully, smoothing down the ruffled shirt tail that had come untucked during his frenzied tryst. "What questions do you have?" Draco looked at him, agog. "What questions don't we have?" Snape sighed and opened an ancient, Muggle-style refrigerator that stood in a sad-looking Muggle kitchen on one side of the room. The refrigerator made groaning sounds that rivaled the ones from the bedroom. He removed a carton of orange juice, pouring himself half a glass. "I would offer you some, but I only have one glass. We can all drink after each other, if you'd like," Snape intoned between sips.
"We're fine, thank you,"
Hermione said, clearly swallowing her distaste at the idea.
"Can you tell us how long you've been here?"
Snape reached his bony fingers towards a composition book, sitting on the countertop. "Every morning I wake up, and I make a tally mark in this notebook. 1 tally mark for each day that I've been here. The day that Potter arrived, I made a horizontal tally mark over the vertical one." Draco and Hermione stepped towards the book, followed closely by Pansy and Weasley. They flipped back through the pages. The composition notebook was thick, over 100 pages at least. Each line of each page, front and back, was filled with close, tightly spaced, perfect tally marks. It had to have numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Hermione's brow furrowed, flipping quickly through the pages.
I don't see a horizontal mark."
Snape turned to a low cupboard and flicked open the lock, swinging the doors open to reveal 4 neat stacks of composition books, each stacked at least 20 books tall. "It's in one of these. Each time a book is filled, I put it in here that evening. The next morning a new book is on the countertop. It's the only thing that changes here. It's the only thing to look forward to. However, I keep hoping I won't wake up that day." The silence in the room was deafening, punctuated only by the exuberant thrusting sounds from the next room. "Well," Pansy said softly. "Well, that's horrible, Snape. I'm sorry." "Thank you, Miss Parkinson," Snape said gravely. "It's Weasley now," Pansy corrected absent-mindedly, then panicked when Ron turned thunderously to her. "What are you talking about?" Weasley bit out. Pansy heaved a long sigh. "Since you clearly haven't figured it out by now, Pratt, I married your brother, Percy. We were happy together. We loved each other. We were supposed to spend our lives together. I wasn't supposed to die in childbirth. And I wasn't supposed to become an old man in the afterlife. There! Are you happy? I miss my husband. I miss my regular life. And I fucking want to go home." The wizened old man withdrew a handkerchief from his pocket, and Pansy blew her nose loudly, turning her back on them. Weasley looked properly chastised. Jim stopped licking his fur long enough to settle a look of distaste upon Weasley. "Sorry, Parkinson. I didn't realize," Weasley said apologetically. Pansy/Ambrose
merely nodded. Draco and Hermione turned back to Snape. "So, you've been here, in the medium place, for a long time. Why? Why are you here with only Harry?" she asked. Snape gave her a mutinous look for her impertinence at the reminder of his plight, before speaking. "I woke up here, after being attacked by Nagini, and seeing the three of you in the Shrieking Shack. I was alone. There was a Muggle wireless on the table that had a cassette player, and a cassette tape that said, 'Play me.' A recorded voice told me that I had done just enough to avoid going to the bad place, but not enough to earn my way into the good place. Therefore," he gestured around himself to his surroundings, "I apparently earned this quaint cottage in the middle of nowhere. I have one drinking glass, one plate, one bowl, and one set of utensils. My cupboards are stocked with adequate but forgettable food that is constantly nearing its expiration date. Leftovers, mainly. There is a small television that receives no signal, and a VCR missing the rewind button. I have the VHS boxed set of Season 2 of the television program Manimal, which never aired because of abysmally low ratings. The series finale has been recorded over with a singular episode of the quiz program Jeopardy! Both of these VHS tapes must be rewound by hand. The final Jeopardy! Answer was avocados. No one got it right." "And Potter?" Draco asked, trying very hard to ignore the increasing pace and volume in the shouts of pleasure from the next room. "It is the same, except that he has a copy of the esteemed film Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2. And in his episode of Jeopardy! The final answer is Boise, Idaho." There was silence, as the noise in the other room crescendoed and climaxed. Hermione's eyes fluttered closed in disgust, and Weasley grimaced painfully. The door behind them opened, and Potter re-emerged, tucking in his shirt as he came. "Well, that was wonderful. Anyone else?" He looked amongst everyone gathered there, and everyone stared back at him stonily. "No? All right." "Potter and I have questions for you as well," Snape said, speaking for them both. "Where have you come from? How did you get here? And why are you here?" The 4 former Hogwarts students offered explanations as best they could, whilst Potter, Snape, and Luna shared the half-empty glass of orange juice. One of them refilled it ever so often, but it never got above half-empty. "So, you're here as both this Harlow person and Hermione?" Potter asked. "And Pansy Parkinson is—" He gestured to Ambrose. Luna and Rosie seemed unsurprised and unfazed at this information. Draco nodded. "And they're demanding that 2 of us leave to go to the bad place, immediately. Pansy insists on going, and Hermione does as well. Hermione refuses to allow me to take her place, and, well, we thought maybe we could stay here instead, and avoid either place." Potter seemed mildly surprised by Draco's use of Hermione's given name and of the word "we" when referring to the 2 of them. To his credit, likely because the crush of his young Slytherin charge wasn't as well hidden as he'd always assumed, Snape was unfazed. "A nice idea, in theory, Malfoy, but I doubt it will work in practice. This medium place, as you call it, has very specific rules. For instance, if I—" Snape punctuated his words by snatching up a towel from next to the small sink and ripping it in half.
If I try to make 2 smaller towels from this one, watch what happens."
The 2 towel halves disappeared, to be instantly replaced by the original towel, the same as before.
"If Potter wishes to come here and share a meal, and he tries to bring his plate from his house, the plate will vanish as soon as he enters my gate. And if I choose to stay the night with Potter in his room, after we fall asleep, I wake back up in my own bed."
Draco caught Hermione's look, a mirror of his own lost hope. This would not be a place they could likely stay, then. A knock on the door startled them all. Hermione rushed to Draco's arms, and Pansy came to stand by them in support. Ron hugged Rosie to him, and Luna tried to stick her tongue in Potter's ear. Snape crossed to the door, then turned to look at them all with a bracing glance. He opened the door, coming face to face with Ariel, the 2 helpers, and not Umbridge.
"Severus Snape,"
Not Umbridge said coolly.
"I should have known you might be involved. Harbouring fugitives? That'll count against you."
"But he seems to have been a gracious host," Ariel was quick to point out, looking at the half-drunk glass of orange juice.
"That'll count in his favour." "So gracious 3 times,"
Luna chimed in. Hermione and Draco exchanged glances. "In 15 minutes," Hermione mouthed, as Draco's eyebrows climbed into his fringe. The man's refractory period was impressive.
"Nevertheless, this medium place is only suited for one individual by themselves, not a whole host of souls,"
Not Umbridge said smarmily.
"Therefore, you'll all need to come with me."
Ron and Rosie looked at each other and nodded, going out of the door. Reluctantly, Hermione gathered up Jim in her arms and followed the others outside, with Draco and Pansy. Luna and Potter came next. Everyone except for Snape boarded the train. Not Umbridge kicked Potter off of the train, resulting in a lengthy kiss goodbye between Luna and the wizard. "I'm glad we have the chance to see each other again," Potter called to them. The train chugged to life, driven by the crimson-clad helper from the bad place. Draco leaned out to watch behind them as the 2 houses disappeared in the distance, the 2 men standing together outside of Snape's house. How mental! Snape and Potter together for eternity. Who would have thought? Draco mused. Hermione simply shook her head, brushing her lips against the soft fur of Jim's ears rhythmically in a self-soothing way. The animal purred against her, all the while giving Draco a calculating stare. Once back in Weasley Manor, everyone settled together in the 6th living room. Luciana had evidently agreed to return to the manor to join them. The scantily uniformed Rosie from earlier served banana wine and hors d'oeuvres alongside Jean Wilder and Richard Pryor, although no one except Luna ate. Ariel began.
"It appears our problems run deeper than I feared. Ambrose, or whatever your name is, it's clear from my conversations with others here in the good place that you are not who you say you are. This is disappointing enough, but it is apparent that your dishonesty has affected the worthiness of those around you. For this reason, we have decided to expel not just you, but your soulmate, Luciana."
There was a strangled, outraged cry from across the room where Luciana lounged on a sofa, being fed bites of banana by a shirtless young man. Pansy struggled to her feet in their orthopedic wingtips.
"I don't see that as strictly necessary,"
she said, but was cut off.
"Perhaps you're right. Luciana, you can stay, Ariel amended quickly. Next to him, Draco heard Hermione harumph loudly. Next, Miss Garamond. You've been invaluable help to me these past several days, helping to investigate possible issues within the town, as well as organizing the lovely event for the garden. I regret to tell you, therefore, that because your soulmate has spent time with Mr. Ambrose, I feel it best if he leave as well. I'm sorry. No! Hermione cried. Draco is not leaving. I should be the—
Harlow, Draco said vehemently. Stop talking.
Additionally, Ariel went on, as though they had not interrupted, it has come to my attention that the owner of this very mansion has had an inappropriate relationship with his helper. Mr. Weasley, you've neglected your soulmate to the point where she has needed to seek out the physical comfort and sexual solace of others.
Weasley looked properly embarrassed, turning away from the others, even as his arm tightened around Rosie.
Therefore, Mr. Weasley, you'll need to leave as well.
Now, the outcry could not be stopped. Weasley was on his feet, shouting sanitized obscenities at Ariel, not Umbridge and their helpers. Hermione and Pansy were coming to his defense with varying degrees of conviction, and even Draco quietly murmured that this level of punishment seemed harsh.
In addition, Ariel went on, the helper known as Rosie will need to be reset. She can no longer exist in this form.
Weasley looked near tears now, begging Ariel to reconsider. The room was in chaos. Pansy was clearly in pain from her aching joints, trying to plead Draco's case. Hermione was doing the same, all the while clinging desperately to Jim. Luciana was yelling at her soulmate, Pansy/Ambrose, for her deceit. Luna was doing the same to Weasley. Draco's brain pixies were buzzing, stumbling over each other, trying to speak their ideas. He found that he was saying the words aloud, standing next to Hermione, tears forming in the corners of his eyes as he looked at her. After a moment, she stilled, as though listening to only him. All of this is wrong. This isn't fair. This isn't right, he said to her. I don't want to have to say goodbye to you. I don't want to have to part ways. I waited nearly my entire life to be with you, to be together with you. We were supposed to have eternity. This can't be right. She looked at him with widened copper eyes, then she stared deeply into his silver ones, her mouth falling open with realization and terror. This isn't right. None of this is right, Draco. I think— She swallowed hard, then turned back to the rest of the room, raising her voice to be heard over the cacophony therein. This is the bad place. At Hermione's words, everything and everyone went suddenly silent. Pansy stopped rubbing at her knees. Weasley's arms slackened around Rosie. Luna stopped sipping the glass of gin that she'd had Estefan bring her earlier. Luciana quit harassing Ambrose. And Ariel smiled slowly and widely. This was not the smile of a benevolent Professor McGonagall, Draco thought. This maniacal grin was one he'd seen across the dinner table for many meals between his 5th and 7th years of school. This was the diabolical smirk of one who took pleasure in the misery of others, who viewed people as nothing more than playthings, there strictly for amusement.
When Bellatrix Lestrange died, Draco thought that he would never encounter a source of evil as wicked as she had been. He had been wrong. Ariel had been toying with him, pulling the marionette strings of their souls this entire time. "Well done, Miss Granger," she said. "I suppose the jig is up." Thank you for listening to Everything is Fine by Great78. If you enjoyed this story and would like to read more like it, please find me on Archive of Our Own or follow my Spotify channel, Silver and Copper.